oh, excuse me, on all of them, the antecubital fossa faces the ceiling. So you always want to have the position like this, okay? So for a posterior ulna, so it's gone this way, right? So you want to correct it by making it go that way. I'm going to take my index and middle finger and I'm going to encircle the olecranon. So that's the olecranon back here. So my thumb, excuse me, my index finger and my middle finger are on each side of it. My thumb is kind of hanging out at the top of the antecubital fossa so that I'm able to get support. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to take my slack out and just drive by pushing this hand up. This is not really where I'm going to do the scissor kind of move where I'm going to, go like that. This hand is stable. This hand here is back out and pushes up. Okay? This is probably your most common correction for the elbow in relationship to the ulna. The anterior ulna, as I said, is not as common because it doesn't have a propensity to go that way because of the anatomy of the elbow. You're going to put, and the humerus is supported. So there's one of two ways to do that. I wouldn't have the patient do that. They would either be laying on the table, so you can imagine that if they're laying down like this, go ahead and just lay down for a second. So this is one way to do it. Now the humerus is stabilized on the table. I'm going to put my kind of palm and fingers on the proximal aspect of the biceps here on the humerus. I'm going to bring the fist towards the shoulder and just push that way.
Push down.
I'm just pushing it that way, which making ulna go anterior. Okay, now the other way to do it, go ahead and sit up. I can support her humerus on my and do the same thing. Cross the wrist, because, that's what's going to happen. So I'm at the distal aspect of the radius and the ulna at the forearm. My slack is out and then down, all in one kind of fell swope. You want to get your slack out. That's pretty thin thrust with the thrusting hand. And trying to avoid scissoring. Not that there isn't some degree of that might happen once you have a better sense of, okay? So that's the anterior and posterior ulna. The medial ulna. So the ulna has gone medial. Again, this would be something you either make that determination based on history. There is another way that you can tell which way to correct, either medial or lateral. But I'll show you the correction first. In this case, again, the antecubital fossa faces the ceiling. This is very much like the adduction varus stress test. So I'm going to hold her so that antecubital fossa is facing the ceiling. She is supinated. I'm going to take my slack out and then just make my thrust that way. Okay. Now for a lateral, the antecubital fossa is still facing. I want to supinate, or pronate. Because as I pronate, the radial head already starts to rotate this way, right? So it's already kind of going a little bit more medial from being lateral. And then what happens a lot of times, as an error, when people go to pronate, they end up doing this. And that's really more like a posterior ulnar correction. So just remember, all the elbow manipulations, the antecubital fossa needs to face the ceiling. Okay? Now, one other way that you can tell what's more indicated is to take the arm and then kind of pronate it and see how well does that seem in terms of a lockout, and see how well that kind of locks out. My experience is that this locks out more easily than this, like there's more squish here. And usually it's the, for lack of a better word in terms of medical stuff, the side with the more squish is the side that you want to correct. And so it's more common to be the lateral radius that you're going to correct. Okay? So that's the posterior ulna, the anterior ulna, the medial ulna, the lateral ulna, which is really, I guess we should write up there, lateral radius as well. So let's just review those.